Hey everybody, Quantum here. In this video, I'm going to cover for you how I was able to qualify for Group A, winning 4 out of 5 matches in my first ever Grand Prix on Shadowverse Worlds Beyond. And you can see here we get the achievement for playing 5 Grand Prix matches. So our first attempt at the Grand Prix, getting 4 out of 5 wins with a free-to-play, budget-friendly AGGRO DRAGONCRAFT build you see on screen here with the QR code. And you know, I don't really play all that much. I think I go to the home screen here and show you that I'm like D0 still. So like I barely play in, I think, Ruby rank. But just goes to show you that with a good build and just understanding some of the nuances with the deck, you can definitely qualify for Group A. We're going to cover some of the matches in just a second, but there you can see the rewards. Let's go ahead and get into it. Alright, in this first matchup, we're going up against Swordcraft, and you can tell like in the Grand Prix, it's not like ranked mode where you're trying to be ranked kind of similar. You can tell this guy had way more points than I did, but I guess in the end it doesn't really matter, it just means you play more. But we're going second, which I think I would definitely prefer as the DRAGONCRAFT player. I've said this, I think, before in the very small amount of videos I've made for this game so far. But we don't have a turn 1 play. Usually we want to get the fan of Otehime out, but we don't have it here after the mulligan, so we're just going to have to pass on turn 1. We're keeping our play point, likely to get Forte out on turn 5. Depends on if the opponent puts out the Swordcraft card that puts up the warded characters. That is a real challenge for this deck to get through, but we can discuss that if we do see it in any of these matchups here. So the opponent here starts off a little aggressive, and they get a really huge tempo swing play with that Divine Thunder, really unexpected. At least they don't develop a character, and this is why cards like Divine Thunder can be a little underwhelming, but with Swordcraft, you know, you put a ton of bodies on the board for free, basically, and so you can definitely afford to play cards like Divine Thunder. So here, I just opt to put a big body on board to clear. They do end up with a 1/1 soldier, but they have the rending to take care of my big body, and I'm like, wow, that's really good for them. Those kind of cards aren't really normally played in Swordcraft. So the opponent has a huge advantage here, life advantage, board advantage. Are we going to be able to kind of do what DRAGONCRAFT wants to do and make explosive plays to really claw back the tempo and control this game here? So I wasn't able to use my play point effectively here to get the Forte out. I had to be more reactive on the board, so I just opt to buff up the Fildow there, but unfortunately the opponent just seems to have answers for everything I have. The dogs come out and clean up my board and still ends with a character for them, and at this point I'm like, well, unless you have Albert that you want to only swing once with because you're not at 9 play points, I'm just going to go full on aggro mode and put you on you need to have an answer for my Forte here. Let's see if they do. They do end up getting the warded character Bellringer on board and then boosting up their field with that spell card. And they're going to be able to hit me for 10, putting me down to 3, and they're depending on, I guess, this Bellringer blocking me, and it normally would because I do have the second Forte, but I have to crash into this Bellringer. So what I'm going to do here on the 8 play points basically is something kind of unique. So we did need all 8. We're going to drop the Nanny, which is going to give us the extra body. We're going to super evolve the Drake Whelp to take care of the Bellringer, and then I'll be able to attack directly with my 8 strength Forte. With the last 6 play points, play my second Forte, and since they're only at whatever they were at, I guess 1, hit them for another 5. I don't need to super evolve the second Forte, so just like that we were able to claw back the game, do that explosive play, and that's what DRAGONCRAFT wants to do. Alright, next up we're up against a Portalcraft, and unfortunately we go first. So if we go first, we really want to see the fan of Otehime. So I only mulligan 1 because I'm like, this is a good aggressive start. I do have a turn 2 and turn 3 play, and then we end up drawing into the fan here, which is kind of what this deck is built around, which is crazy because it's 3 copies of 1 card in a 40 card deck, but it's really good when you do get this online. You just have to really manage your resources effectively. So here I drop the Dragon Nanny with the anticipation that they are going to crash here, and then I can trade out with the Fire Newt, but they just attack directly. So this gives me a good indication that they want to be aggressive, and I'm like, okay, that's fine. I can probably out-aggress you. They're on the artifact version, clearly. Down comes Yudi, which is a real, I don't want to say a big problem, but being a 3/3 definitely hurts. I have to try to win the game before they get to turn 8 where Orcus will drop. So you're going to see me be very aggressive here. and they don't have a way to deal with this Fire Drake Whelp right now. They're going to drop the Rukina and then use their Evolve point, I think, in this turn to slow me down by getting the Striker artifact on board. So they go for the damage artifact beta. I played a decent amount of Portalcraft, so I kind of know the limitations of this deck and the strengths, and they really need turns to set up. So if I can just push through the damage early enough, you know, the Forte here is going to do a lot of work. So I take a turn to clean up the board a little bit. This Phil Dow was a really good draw, I think, on the turn, because it's going to allow me to clear 2 threats and then use the fan still and hit for 3. So I probably get rid of the Newt, because at this point it doesn't have value at this stage in the match. And next turn, on turn 6, I'm going to be able to drop Forte. Now, if they did have the artifact that cleared the board, it wouldn't be enough, because I'd still win the game off of the Forte Evolve, right? Because I just need that Evolve to win on 7. They go for the damage artifact. Again, it doesn't end up making a difference here, but you can see why I was really pushing the damage before turn 7, turn 7 where they can use their play point, get to 8, and then hit me with the Orcus combo, which would be very difficult for me to play around. And just like that, off of simply the Forte coming in to close the game out, we're able to take that one as well. Alright, so in this next matchup here, we are going first against Portalcraft once again. This guy obviously much higher in terms of the points, so it just plays a lot more. Opening hand here looks pretty decent. One thing I will say is Strike of the Fire Newt is a very awkward card in a lot of matchups. I don't think I know how to use it correctly just yet. I think you need a lot of matchup specific knowledge, so you know, just if you're going to use this deck, just be wary of when you want to keep this card, what cards you want to hit with it, like critical points in the matchup. So you can see here the opponent is very aggressive. Turn 1, using their play point to get a Ruby on board. We play the Fan on turn 1, go for the Ruby of our own on turn 2. They're going to opt to trade out Rubies, which is interesting. We're going to go ahead and use Fan on turn 3, so that's going to use up our play points, pop a card in our hand, attack for 2, because I anticipate the opponent wants to trade out Rubies once again. Being the person with the extra play point, you know, in my opinion, going second in this game is better than going first. You can see here that they're able to maintain tempo. So we're going to go ahead and instead of use the Newt, we're going to get it off out of our hand with the Fan and go for the Bodyguard or the Hime. Attack directly, because the goal here is that I was going to use, and this is where I make a mistake, I was going to use the 4-drop Berserker to clear the board, but then they end up using their Evolve point on Yudi, which I didn't expect, and it makes sense, right? Because against Dragoncraft, like, the health gain that you get from this is very useful. But this Puppet Lancer, you know, was going to be easy fodder, because yeah, they're going to drop a Puppet, take out my card, hit me for 5, which isn't ideal. But the Berserker coming in, being able to take out the Yudi for 4 damage if it did not evolve, and then crash into this, means I still have 5 willpower left over. So I mess up here and thinking like, okay, like, yeah, why would you evolve the Yudi? But like I said, it makes sense. They push for damage, they get the healing. I'm still going for the Berserker play here is definitely a mistake, because I should have went for Fildau. So what ended up happening here, if we just go back a second, is I used the Evolve on the Berserker to end up taking out the Lancer, because if I put 4 damage into Yudi, I still have to crash into the Yudi. So going for Fildau here to just blanket take out the Yudi, and then still having 3 play points left over to even go for the Apollo, or it would be better to use the Fan of Odahime and then hit directly, because Fildau evolves, takes out the Yudi, and then I can hit Lancer. My Fildau ends up being a 4-2 on board, and I just pop the Heaven's Apollo in this matchup. It's not very good. Pop it with the Fan, get another 2-2 to crash directly, and this puts a lot of pressure on the opponent. They do have the Puppets to, again, clear my board, but Puppets would have a harder time clearing the Berserker, especially since they used up the Enhanced Puppet here. What I have to be very wary about in this matchup is Sylvia's regaining health and evolving to pop my Intimidate characters like Forte. And of course, like I mentioned in the previous matchup, the Orcus coming in on turn 8, or in this case, turn 7 with the play point, right? So this is one of the plays that I think really lost me the match. I was so like focused on, you know, thinking on the previous turn, my opponent's turn, like I'm going to go for this Berserker play, not reevaluating the play based on what my opponent ended up doing, which was evolving their Yudi. So here they go for the Medical Grade Assassin, which gives the Puppet Bane to take out my big body pretty cleanly there. We're going to go ahead and, again, use, not again, but like, you could argue that should I have saved that gold note to when I hit overflow, which is 7 play points, so that I would regain the health as well. In this matchup, I don't think health like regaining health is too important for us. Like we just want to be the aggressor. I go for the Otahime here because, you know, the Phil now can't go 2 for 1. So really I lost the opportunity to do that. If I leave this medical grade assassin, I know they have puppets in hand and they're going to just clear the Otahime for free, and then this thing's going to hit me directly. But I have to be so careful of not playing into the Sylvia here. You could argue that, well, Quantum, you should have gone for the Blackwing Dragon. And in hindsight, yes, I should have, because they're not going to drop Sylvia anyways in this point in the match. They're not going to drop it to take care of an Odahime's bodyguard. So I should have just gone for the Forte, evolved it, and hit for 7. That would have put them down to 8. This thing does 6, the Warrior of the Deep. So I would just need 2 more damage, which I can probably get with the bodyguard here, right? That we're coming up to the point where Orcus is becoming a reality, and I'm already at 15. So, you know, that one play with the Berserker, I think, is what really made me lose the game in this one. But you never know. Like, the opponent could have had the Sylvia, they could have had the Orcus, they could have just had all the answers, and my deck just can't push through all of that health gain and aggressive pressure with the puppets, sorry, taking out my characters so efficiently. You know, puppets, they are a good deck. They do have some bad matchups, but this is definitely one of the matchups where they can definitely do very, very well in if the opponent has the right cards, and those right cards are the Sylvia and the Orcus, because the bodyguard Lloyd that the Orcus puts up is also a little awkward for you to deal with, but really in this matchup, like, none of the puppets or anything can hit your Intimidate character, so that's where Forte can really be a big force to deal with. But here you can see, like, I can't get any aggression going. I've missed my opportunity to develop my Forte. Now I'm just constantly playing catch up to the opponent here. Have to use my Super Evolve defensively and first to clear the Medical Grade Assassin, which isn't great. They're going to be coming up on the turn where they can drop an Orcus plus an Enhanced Puppet because they have 9 play points, and that's exactly what they do. And yeah, if they had this, I just lost the game anyways. So a couple of misplays early on that really put me behind, and it's probably just inexperience on my part. Misplays looking back at this match where, you know, again, I had to play for that line, whether or not they had the answers, and I would have lost this anyways. You know, you have to go for the most optimal line, and what I did there was definitely not optimal. Again, it may have just been a lost cause, but you definitely want to reflect back and take note of your mistakes and improve for the next matchup. Alright, next up we are going up against another Swordcraft. There was a lot of Swordcraft and Portal. And you know, I think with a deck like Dragoncraft Aggro, you want to see stuff like Runecraft. I think that you have a decent matchup into Runecraft because they just are a little too slow in trying to develop, and you can usually OTK them, not OTK, but like win the game before they get their Dimension Climb and stuff online. Anyways, going first once again, so not ideal, but we do have the Fan on turn 1. Nothing on turn 2, despite us playing such a large amount of 2-drops. We draw the Ruby on turn 3, of course. So at this point, I'm like, okay, I'm a little bit behind. But, you know, Swordcraft, they don't really have ways to heal. So if I can get enough damage in early, I can probably close the game out with, like, you can already see in my hand, the Forte and the Warrior of the Deep. So down comes the Valse, which clears my Otahime. I'm going to go ahead and drop the Apollo here, deal 1 damage. They're going to return with their own Apollo. In this matchup, you have to be wary of the 5-drop that puts up to 3 bodyguard Swordcraft followers, which can be a little difficult to deal with. We're going to go ahead and drop Ruby here, and then I was debating dropping the Detective or using the Fan. I opt to drop the Detective because this is a bigger threat, right, as a 3-3, instead of pushing for the extra 2 damage, because they did have this on board, and I figured they were going to evolve this anyways. So they trade out, and then they're going to develop a bit of a board here. 4 cards left in hand, but they hit me directly for 3, and I'm like, okay, they're pushing for damage, which means they probably have the Albert line that they want to go for. And again, you can see the value of Phil Dow in this matchup. Usually the better, more efficient card over the Berserker, in my opinion, and obviously learning from that last matchup, you can see that I go for it here, and this is a much more optimal line. I get 2 bodies on board, right? I don't have this one big body that is kind of limited in what it can take out because of the 4 damage. And Berserker in this matchup is actually better saved, in my opinion, for the Super Evolve, if you need to clear out all of those warded characters. So if we just pause for a quick second and take a look. So Draconic Berserker, you evolve it once, deal 4 damage to a single enemy follower, but if you Super Evolve, you deal that damage, the 4 damage, to all enemy followers instead. And that's very useful into the Swordcraft matchup, where they can put up, again, the Amalia on 8 with all of those warded warded characters. I'm thinking bodyguard like friggin' Lorcana, but yeah, so knowing your matchups and knowing, you know, certain abilities are useful in certain situations, very, very good here. So they drop the Valse again, but this time with the Enhance, so it's got +2/+2 in Ambush, so I can't hit it with anything. And I'm like, okay, I gotta be a little wary of the Albert coming in, but again, they're still 2 turns away, because on turn 8 they can use the Albert with the play point to get the Enhanced 9. So I'm just going to put pressure on, go for the Odahime, evolve it. They opt to hit me with the, or hit my Odahime with the Valse. Go for the Steel-clad Knight, that's the name of the, oh sorry, not the name of the card there. They go for the Luminous Magus, that's the name of the card, where it puts up these 3 warded characters, which is a nightmare for Dragoncraft to deal with. But this is where, like I said, coming in with a Draconic Berserker is super clutch, because we're going to be able to super evolve this, wipe the board, and deal with the follow-up Knight that gets put on board from that card leaving the field. And we're going to still have play points left over to go for the Bodyguard and put them down to 9, which is going to put them very close into the range of getting Forte plus Warrior of the Deep. So they're going to drop the Albert here to deal some damage to the board. They did hit 9, so it is going to be able to attack twice. They're going to hit me for the character on the Draconic Berserker to clear that out, and then hit me directly, so putting me down to 11. We draw a strike here, but on 9 play points, I can drop the Forte, super evolve it, go to 8 damage, put them on 1, and then I still have 3 play points left over, trigger the fan, pop a card, put out a Bodyguard, hit for 2, that's 10 damage total, and we have game, and that's exactly what we're going to do. Pop the strike, grab the Bodyguard, drop the Forte, super evolve it, but the opponent ends up resigning before I can do that. So GG, we are now 3-1, one more win to get to Group A. Alright, well, 3 Sword Crafts and 2 Portal Crafts in this run, which is kind of crazy, but I guess it is what it is. I mean, the only other deck you would expect to see here is, I guess, Runecraft, which, like I said, one of the good reasons to play Dragoncraft is because you want to see the Runecraft matchup, but we didn't see any in this one. That's okay. Turn 1, again, getting the fan, which is great. We don't want to go first, but when we do go first, this is why this deck can still do good when it goes first, is because if you get fan on turn 1, it's actually not the worst. So turn 1, turn 2 play, that's not bad for us. They're going to go for the Fildau with the play point that they use on their turn 1. They come in with the Rush character and hit me directly with the Fildau, so that hurts a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and use the Otahime's Bodyguard here because it has ward, so I'm going to force the Fildau to trade into it most likely and also hit them for 2. Nope, they're going to drop Valse, which develops a character, and their Fildau continues to hit me directly. You can see that they're trying to be the aggressor here as well, which is kind of interesting. I'm going to go ahead and use Strike on the Fildau and develop the Dragon Nanny, knowing that Swordcraft can have a little bit of a tough time dealing with the Fire Drake Whelp. Down comes their... And this is what you would expect. Zirconia evolves, gives everything +1/+1, and now they have a wide board that's very hefty to try to deal with here. I do have my evolve point. They did use one of theirs, so what am I going to be able to do? There's a couple of lines here that you can go for, right? You might think Fledgling Dragon Slayer, evolve it, take out another threat. You can take out both of these, end with your Dragon Slayer, but then they still have 4 damage on board to put me to 9. So the play here is actually going to be Apollo, and this is why you play Apollo in this deck. It's strictly for the Swordcraft matchup, really. In other matchups, it's not good, but you can just pop it with the fan if you don't need it. But in this matchup, it's really, really beneficial to deal with all of these, like, I call them like weenie characters, right? So, you know, in Magic the Gathering, you know, these 1/1 tokens, 2/2 tokens that like red aggro plays, mono red aggro or white red aggro plays. That's what you want to use this card to clear. So with this, we're going to drop the Apollo, deal 1 damage to everything, evolve it, deal 1 damage to everything again, and then crash with the last 3 willpower on the Zirconia there, and we still end with our Fire Drake Whelp. So yes, we do end with 2 play points left over, so it's not optimal. Having an extra play point, you know, being able to trigger the fan here or use Gold Note to draw cards would have been really, really nice, but it's fine. Down comes the Albert to deal no damage because they're not in the Enhanced 9 state. They're going to evolve it and hit me for 5, and I'm at 8, and so I'm like, okay. If they have another Albert here, there's nothing I can really do. I'm just going to lose to it because on the Super Evolve, it's going to hit me for 6, so if they can get some damage in, it's not going to be great for me. So down comes the Dragon Slayer, takes out the Albert, hits them directly for 3 because I use my Evolve on the Fire Drake Whelp. They draw, they now have Super Evo available to them. They drop Valse with the enhanced 6 to give it ambush and the +1/+1. So that's unfortunate because I can't hit that with my fledgling Dragon Slayer. And this is what I mean, like if they have this kind of setup, another Albert comes in, even if it doesn't have the enhanced 9, it super evolves. This hits me directly, that hits me directly. I could be in trouble here because, well, I could develop the Bodyguard, which would be good because it has ward, so it might protect me a little bit. So what I end up doing here, super evolving and boosting up the Dragon Slayer with the Mirian and using the Gold Note Melody. You can argue that that is a misplay though, because instead of melodying, I could have used this to get the warded Bodyguard character, and that would have protected me from the Albert play. So I would say that this is a misplay. Using the fan here and then dropping Marion for my 7 play points would have probably been better than drawing. I guess drawing does gain me the health because I'm in overflow. But it doesn't put me out of Albert Super Evolve because that's 6 and 4. It's still 10 damage. I still lose the game if they have the second Albert. So this is a misplay. I should have lost because of this if they had the second Albert. They end up dropping Amelia and going back up to 4 play points. Plus they have their extra play point for going second now. So they could use this, drop Albert for 5 and still do the Super Evo hit me for game. And they draw 2 Swordcraft followers off the Amelia, and could draw the Albert. They don't have it. I see them drop the Luminous Magus, and that gets them a couple of warded characters. They put barrier on everything, and thankfully I'm going to be able to close the game out for 6 damage with the Warrior of the Deep, which is why I went for that aggressive play with the Marion into the Super Evolve on the Fledgling Dragon Slayer. So yeah, could have been punished really heavily there. Looking back, just because I win doesn't mean that I played everything correctly. You can see where I definitely left myself exposed to losing to a certain line of play. I could have played a little bit better in that final match, but in the end, we did end up still taking it. Again, you can't play to every single out every time, but you definitely want to maximize your chances of not playing into a loss as well. So with that said, that's going to wrap up this video. If you made it this far, thank you again for watching. Quantum is out.